Mike 3883, we appreciate your contribution there. There's been this whole debate about Florida State versus Alabama for the playoff last year. What about the integrity of the sport? Have Florida State in over the cheaters? I believe he means Michigan, of course, and both Florida State and Alabama make the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
That is one way to look at it.
I don't really hold the grudge with any of the teams, but I do agree. It was kind of a big FU from the committee because it was the final year of that 14 playoff, but it really is a shame the message that it put. That's what hurt the most. That's what hurt Mike Norvell, Michael Alford, the players the most, is that, all you have is the entire history of the sport, Power 5, undefeated. You do everything. You put yourself in a position, and still, for them to decide to make that decision on this last one, and the biggest part, not having your conference, not having anybody have your back. And another thing Mike Alford addressed in that Sirius radio interview, that ACC championship broadcast, the entire thing was lobbying for the SEC, them interviewing SEC people, Kirk Herbstreit jumping up and down, freaking out over a crazy, insane game that Alabama should have won, and their issues. So it's like the week before. It was a whole mess. It is what it is at this point.
I'll have more to say against Mike's statement when we get the final verdict from the NCAA on the entire Michigan thing. My thought process right now, and I probably have 30 or 50 or who knows how many hours on channels talking about this, but I'll sum it up in one statement. One individual cheated. We know that. Now, the impact of that cheating, we could argue for hours and hours and hours. Some people minimize it. Some people blow it out of proportion. The impact, let's put that to the side. But we know one guy cheated. He got fired. We don't know where it went beyond that. We know that one linebacker coach got fired because he knew about it to some degree. So because he instructed players on how to answer to the NCAA. So he gets fired. So I'm all about finding out what the impact of it was, or the permeation of it within the coaching staff all the way to Jim Harbaugh. That's what I want to know. Otherwise, I can't make some kind of verdict on that. But if you guys have any comments, whether it's just Michigan flat out cheating and Florida State not being involved, or as it pertains to Florida State's place rightfully in the playoffs.
All I would say, one sentence, finish it, is just that, I don't buy it. Like, there has to be, if only one person cheated, there'd never been a story. Like, I have no doubt, if you ask me, I'd put all my money on, the whole offense, defense, everybody knew about it. And one person was out there with his neck on the line, and it happened to be the person that was, they could top off. I guarantee you there's some kind of payment in escrow that guy's taken care of. But that's all I get.
We're talking about, which cheating are we talking about?
Talking about Michigan cheating.
No, I'm saying Michigan got popped twice. Remember, Jim Harbaugh was supposed to serve a 4-game suspension because he had to fire his OC.
Yeah, the spying, the going to other stadiums, and what's still being investigated.
Which I agree. I mean, here's the thing. It was definitely wrong. I don't mind that as much because at the end of the day, they got to stop the play. Now, they can't put themselves in a good position to stop the play if they're running, but there's all kinds of different things that we can argue. I mean, Michigan was beatable, regardless of that. There's been instances where the system is flawed, but it was a computer. But there's never been an instance where you had 3 undefeated teams and all of them went in. Like, if Florida State would have lost, then there would have been arguments. I know a lot of Miami fans love to troll and they'll talk about the 2000 championship, but we lost to you. We lost to Miami, but Miami also lost that year. So, like, that's what messed it up. And we won. We beat a higher-ranked team at the end, which, again, that's what kind of got it into it. I would argue that I believe that's the year West Virginia was pretty good. I'd argue that West Virginia is the one who really got screwed out of that deal more than Miami did. Washington beat
Miami.
Yeah, Washington beat Miami, but I believe there was a West Virginia team that was – now, I forgot exactly who it was. off the top of my head. I'm tired, but it was a team that should have that had an argument too. But
2000,
here's
right?
where
You're talking
where
2000.
we had 2000.
Yeah.
Here's where we had an undefeated Power 5 conference champion, and it had never happened before. And they brought Texas and Bama in. And to be honest with you, they could have left Texas out, and Texas would have had an argument over Bama. Nobody has an argument over Florida State, though. And the reason why is because they play in a conference that's supposed to be what you consider one of the 5 better conferences. And they beat everybody, including a top-ranked team in Louisville who didn't have any of those injuries. And they deserve the opportunity to get their butt whooped. If that's the case, if you didn't believe, because even the excuses that people use, TCU the year before, if I keep telling that's a bad example because TCU beat Michigan. It made it to the national championship. They earned, if you win your playoff game, you earn the opportunity to get your butt whooped in the playoffs. Period. And that's just what happened. I mean, but it's not Bama's fault. Bama did what they needed to do. They played the path, they played the game. It helps. It would not have helped ESPN to not in the narrative. And again, a lot of people, it's not a grand government conspiracy, what people mean, but let's just stop saying that ESPN, who pays the SEC's bills, wouldn't have, like, if you didn't have an SEC champion in there, that wouldn't look good to the narrative of SEC superiority, which gets pushed. By the way, Mark, did you see the article that was written about how the NBA has flourished with NBC over the NBA flourishing with ESPN?
No.
And it has everything to do with narratives. The crux of the argument is that NBC has done a better job with the NBA because they have focused on the stories centering around the players in the game, whereas ESPN has focused more on like tearing down the current better players and comparing everybody to Jordan. So basically, you're comparing and then using your Stephen A. Smiths and your talking heads to be more of the story than the actual game or the gameplay. So that's kind of seems to be the strategy right now at the network. Is the strategy isn't the gameplay, which is also why I think Fox and a lot of other people are starting to have a better product than them. It's about creating drama, and which drama sells, but instead of just letting the gameplay itself play out. You would have had natural stories in general if you would have just let it play out. But the fact that you had to do that, and then when Saban retired right after it, it just made for a lot of other different things. But I think Florida State fans will always be a little bitter about it. But we're not mad. I'm not mad at Bama, and I'm not mad at Texas. I have no reason to be mad at those guys. And I find it odd that those fans try to pick fights. They didn't pick themselves to get in there. I'm mad at NC State's president. I'll never forgive him for that. I'm mad at the ACC. I'm not mad at anybody else.